Okay, so our topic for today is biosecurity considerations for agritourism businesses. So let's start with my background is animal science. My undergraduate degrees are in animal science. So animals are important to me. So are plants because we they provide beauty and sustenance to us. But let's start with the animals first. So let's think about in terms of biosecurity is that there is the term zoonosis, and maybe you've heard of that term. And what that means is a disease or a pathogen that can cross between our livestock to humans, and that's essentially what it means. But there are also diseases and pathogens that can also be transferred to our livestock. So we need to be concerned not only to protect our livestock, but in an agritourism business, we need to be concerned about protecting our visitors, our patrons, from what might be uh, potential of a um, pathogen crossing from one of our animals into the to humans. But we also, in my mind, we need to be thinking about human to human contact as well, um, because you are having visitors from all walks of life and all different stages of human development that are going to be visiting your farm, and so we also need to be concerned about what may be some of your patrons or visitors bringing with them that would be unwanted as far as feeling ill or sick, and it could be transmitting that to one another either directly or indirectly. So what about plants? Well, plants, yeah, we still need to be concerned about plants. We don't often think of that. I appreciate Lindsay helping me to think through this. Uh, and that, plants too can get sick. And so one specific example would be the fact that uh, there may be some certain viruses or other pathogens that if we are allowing uh, cons- patrons, visitors to use their own tools to cut the flowers or vegetables or whatever, that they may be transferring some type of pathogen to our plants. And depending on the type of plant, it could potentially be quite costly, especially if we're thinking about some type of a perennial like lavender here, that it could wipe out the plant. And then, think of it also from the aspect of, what happens to a pathogen when it infects an animal or one of us? Does it, we have to think about how pathogenic or how quickly or easily it can spread from one to another. If it's a virus of some sort that can be transferred easily from plant to plant, it could wipe out a significant proportion of your crop. So it is something that need to be thinking about and be um, conscious about. Also, one of the things I thought of though is that we also need to be thinking about when we're talking about plants. Plants are wonderful at fighting illness and pathogens on their own, um, but there may be some situations where we need to be thinking also about human to human. You know, a plant potentially. I'm not saying that it always is, but potentially as a vector for someone getting sick. Someone that's not feeling well touches a piece of vegetable, or pick your own, or apples. Pick your own. Again, it's clean, fresh air, sunlight, and so on. So maybe the risk isn't there, but still, the plants being the vector for transmission of a disease from one individual, one person to another, is something that maybe you should be thinking about. So these guys are asking, well, what are you going to do to protect us? So there are some thoughts. Here are some thoughts. One would be is to have hand washing stations, and also and that this hand washing stations should be strongly encouraged, if not mandated, to be used before and after petting the animals. If you are allowing visitors or patrons to come in contact with your animals, certainly washing hands before they come in contact with the animals is going to protect your animals, but then washing their hands immediately after is going to protect them. Not saying that there's anything necessarily that could be of concern with your animals. It's just good cautionary practice. Also signage. One idea for one piece of signage would be is to have people avoid petting your or being in the petting zoo area if they're not feeling well. And also remember that many of your visitors may not know how to act around or know the behaviors of farm animals. So some signage around that might be helpful as well as to help instruct them and remind them of how they should act and approach your farm animals. So I already mentioned that the hand washing stations, maybe one might consider a little bit extreme. Should we be disinfecting or should you be encouraging disinfecting of footwear? Make sure that any animals that are kind of on public display or certainly in a petting zoo type of area are healthy and are updated on their vaccinations. Uh, have either yourself, your employees, or someone conduct walkthroughs periodically throughout the day to make sure that to observe the animals. If they're routinely looking at the animals, they should be able to quickly spot an animal that's not feeling well. So you would want to remove that animal as soon as possible from that engagement area, petting zoo, whatever it is, very soon. Same way with in a plants. You should be either an employee or yourself should be routinely um, looking and observing at the plants to make sure that they look vibrant and healthy and something and also appealing because plants are something that does take into account visual that they do remain looking appealing and healthy and vibrant to your customers. Maybe you decide that, or if you're contemplating some type of an animal component to your agritourism, are you going to allow your patrons or visitors to actually come in contact with the animals? Is it sufficient just to have a visual area of your animals for those that are coming to visit your agritourism business? And one big one is not allow eating or drinking in the area where your animals are, especially if it's a petting zoo type of situation. Because what happens? They're holding food, they're holding a drink, they pet the animal, they're going to touch the food, touch the drinks, and now those are contaminated. It needs to be a clear break between the two. Here is an example. This will be in a fact sheet later on, and also slides may be available as to something from Iowa State on a checklist for a agritourism business. Also, there is also one from the University of Vermont, and that too will be provided in the fact sheet that we'll be following. Maybe extreme, but again, something to think about. There may be, you know, one of my colleagues years and years ago said, "Is the juice worth the squeeze?" The protection of not of your visitors and patrons, but also your animals too. They're valuable to you. So is it worth the extra step to consider having your visitors wear booties, or there are inexpensive mats that can be filled with disinfectant that you might be able to funnel people through to be able to um, partially or do a fairly decent job, hopefully, of disinfecting the bottom of their shoes. Just something food for thought to consider. What about plants? Okay, for fruit, vegetable, ornamentals, businesses. What are you going to do to protect them? Well, if it's cut flowers or any kind of cutting is needed, in your agritourism business, provide the tools to do it. And routinely, I mean, maybe multiple times during the day, wash and sanitize your tools so that any potential or risk of any kind of pathogen is dramatically reduced. Another thing would be thinking of a fruit or pick your own. Again, you want to protect your crops, but also think about human and human contact, uh, providing hand washing stations, encouraging someone to use a hand washing station before they go into the pick your own, even to the extent of ideally providing, a porta potty or some type of toilet facilities would be ideal. And of course, if there is a porta potty, there obviously will need to have a hand washing station. Again, it's kind of like the animals is that have signage, is that if someone is not feeling well, that you would really suggest to them it's not their day or not their time to maybe be there to pick or be part of cutting flowers or pick your own. So what if you're part of a tour? I'm not here to cash dispersions on any of your fellow agritourism businesses that one is doing a better job with biosecurity than another, but it is to some extent, in my mind, you are introducing and having a little bit higher risk because especially in this case, it's a fiber tour, it's an animal, you're visiting animal farms. So there is a little bit more of a risk than potentially where a family or visitors are going around from farm to farm visiting various farms on this fiber tour. So maybe a little bit more heightened awareness about how to protect your animals. Also protecting the visitors as well. So many of the things that were already mentioned will probably be fine, but maybe there's consider potentially some additional and enacting some additional procedures for the day or the weekend of the fiber tour or the tour. And again, this is the juice worth the squeeze? If you're if the tour is such that this may not be as of high concern, well then maybe not have to worry about it. But my concern here is that there are multiple animal farms that are being visited, so you want to be a little bit more have a heightened awareness of potential of keeping your animals and your farm safe. So this is not rocket science. Okay. Hopefully a lot of what I've already said and will continue to share in this presentation It's not rocket science, it's common sense. All trying to do in this presentation today is just to kind of heighten your awareness around biosecurity so that when we get into the agritourism or the visiting season for your farm business, now is a good time to start thinking about it and start enacting and thinking about what procedures and policies you're going to enact this year to help keep your business, your farm safer, not only for the plants and animals on your farm, but also for your visitors. So what can you do? Well, there are a variety of actions that you can take, and I'm just going to highlight a few of them now as to what you might be able to do. So one thing is that if you have employees, uh, the one thing you need to train your employees and need to be thinking about what's important for my employees to know about biosecurity so that we as a team can help protect and do the best job we can to help um, maintain the biosecurity of our business of our farm. So clearly state the all kinds of expectations that you have with your employees, but certainly clothing and hygiene would be important ones from the biosecurity perspective, making sure that they have clean clothing on. You know, if you can afford it and swing it, you know, provide a uniform or at least provide a shirt or something um, for your employees so that they they have clean clothes when they're working at your place and have um, to present a good look for your business. Also, just as a side note, having some type of a uniform shirt, you know, at least a shirt or something that identifies them as being an employee or part of your farm is very helpful. As people visit the farm, and if they have a question or a concern, who, how can they readily identify someone that's there, that works there to be, and that they could go talk to and have their question answered or share some type of concern. Uh, Make sure that your employees understand the safety risks. You know, there's all, we're focusing on biosecurity here, but you know, there may be farms are working operations. There's a lot of safety risks potentially with machinery, uneven surfaces, all kinds. So making sure that your employees are well trained to identify safety risks and how to address them would be important. Not the least being biosecurity risks. Uh, Farm safety plan and protocols for the operation. Again, this is something that's kind of broad range, and there should be a lot of different protocols, especially for your front facing employees, or specifically thinking about your front facing employees that are working with the customers that are and patrons that are coming to your farm for agrarian or for an experience on your farm. What kind of protocols need to be put in place to be able to help your employees understand when they need to act and how they need to act accordingly if something arises. For example, you know, what if they notice a sick animal in the petting zoo or in the animal area? You know, a protocol should be developed as to how they should handle that situation. Should they contact you first? Do they have the authority to be able to go remove that animal and segregate it into another area away from the public view? And then, even after that, what needs to be done? Should they be taking temperature? What should they be doing to be able to determine what, if anything, should they be doing to determine what may be causing this animal not to look well at this point? And then, an emergency response procedure would be is that if there was something emergent happen, somebody gets bit by an animal, somebody, whatever it is, more of an emergent type of situation. Again, what is the protocol? What is the procedure for that needs to be enacted with when an incident happens on your farm? Who should they contact? Um, you know, I, can they? Is it their immediate supervisor, or is it you as the owner of the farm? They need to contact. What else should they be doing in the interim, um, potentially between when you get there or somebody, a supervisor gets there to kind of take over the situation? What should they be doing to provide customer service or helping the customer and or the animal? So I didn't, this is a picture from a really great publication that's called Safety and Risk Management. This will be in again, in the fact sheet that will be presented to you or available to you that you can look at to help give you some ideas on what kind of protocols, procedures, so on and so forth that you can set up for your farm, and helping to set up your farm to keep it as biosecure potentially, or reduce the safety and risks, or enhance the risk, safety and reduce risks on your farm. Again, this is from the University of Vermont, uh, and the link is there, but will also be in the fact sheet. So I mean, HPAI, or the avian influenza, is getting a lot of, uh, and rightly so, a great deal is of a great deal of concern right now. If you have any birds or poultry on your farm, is that certainly a heightened awareness about, not only just in general to protect your flock of birds, but then, there is potentially a risk, again, especially maybe in a tour situation, but even not. We're coming up on the migratory season for my bird waterfowl, moving from the south to the north. Um, so that is a direct concern with them, interacting with your birds, but then also people visiting your farm, your agritourism site. You know, who knows where they have walked or been before. So this is also a good resource that can give you some ideas about avian influenza uh, for your agritourism business. So that's it. That's, I know it's maybe short and sweet, but I think I've kind of hit the high points here of and hopefully have created awareness and helping you think that, biosecurity is definitely something that need to be concerned about, even if it is you're a fruit farm or a vegetable farm or a cut flower farm. Biosecurity is still something that you should be thinking about, and not, again, before we get into kind of here in New York State, the agritourism season. This is a good time to start thinking about what policies, procedures, what should we be doing differently this year about biosecurity for our agritourism business. So thank you, and we'll open it up to questions now.